Hello. So, today we'll be re-analyzing the events of the 2019 Magic Online Championship. Round 6, Oliver Tiu versus Michael Jacob. This match was interesting because the match result was overturned. The in-game result was requested to be undone, and that's kind of an unusual thing, and the judges accept it. So what happened? I'm going to lay down the facts today, and we'll go through it. So what exactly are we doing? The central question is to understand why the match results were overturned. So first, I'll present everything I know, all the evidence that I feel is relevant. And let's get this, not the pen. Then we're going to put that evidence in context. So what types of things are we looking at? And then where do they fit into the rough timeline of what happened leading up to the result being overturned and the statements the parties made around it. So then we're going to, so that'll be fairly quick, but then we're going to go in depth analyzing what was said, what happened, what might have been going on. And that'll be where I add myself to this process. So here I've just organized what I see are the facts, and hopefully I didn't leave anything important out. And I'll also be discussing some evidence that you might not have seen or had access to that is important to get out there. Okay, so after that analysis, I will open this back up to being a stream and take questions, and as long as people here have them. So we'll see about all that. Section 1, evidence. There's 3 central pieces of evidence in this matter. So the first piece of evidence I'm citing is the Twitch coverage of the match. You can watch it. Here's a link with a timestamp. I'll put that in the description when this becomes a YouTube video. But there it is. So you may have seen, I mean, this is the first experience people had with the match, and this decision was the Twitch coverage. Then Michael's deleted tweet. So during the Twitch coverage, you couldn't see what the players were saying. You could get a glimpse of a corner of it, but we'll talk about that. So Michael tweeted something out right after the match, right after he lost the match, and has since deleted it. But that included some of the chat logs, which are important to this discussion. And finally, what still exists up there, and here's a link to it, Michael's statement on twitlonger. So we'll go through that and those 3 pieces of evidence, like this is some case, the case for justice. Okay, so let's fit those in to a timeline, because I think out of context, they may be misleading, but here we go. We can look at them. Roughly, the timeline is the match starts. They play out the match, all the stuff in the match happens, and Oliver wins the match. Great. We'll talk about what all that stuff is. Then, after the match, Michael tweets out to his followers some words and a couple screen captures of the chat logs. After that, Oliver requests for the match result to be overturned. He contacted the judges who were overseeing the event. This is the Magic Online Championship. And after that, they look it over, and the judges, in their wisdom, overturn the match result. Usually, if both parties agree, the loser and the winner both agree to reverse the result, why not do it, right? Finally, the last thing we'll go over is the twitlonger that Michael posts. When he does that, he also removes the original tweet for potentially a number of reasons. So that's the rough timeline. The match, result gets overturned, and then people's comments around it. Okay, so starting with the match. Michael assembles the combo to gain infinite life in game 1. And then an agreement. This is the central issue here. The agreement is made in game chat. So here's the log. First thing to point out is that these timestamps, I have altered them to be more accurate of the actual time. But it reads as follows. So, are you attacking with zombies or no? I'll sit here for 5 minutes if I have to. And then Oliver, nah, I won't. I can still win through mill. So, after setting this in the match, Oliver doesn't attack with zombies, and Michael goes on to win, comboing out or whatever it is. Now, I've put this little screen capture of the actual match because it shows the original timestamps here. So 4:34, 4:34, 4:35, 4:35. This image had different timestamps, and we'll see those to me. Great. So that's what happened in match 1, or game 1. In game 2, Oliver wins it. Michael concedes. And in game 3, things get interesting again now that it's tied up 1-1. Michael assembles the combo, the pieces of the combo, to gain infinite life. And then Oliver disrupts the combo and then attacks with zombies to win. So here, again, the chat log can indicate what was going on. This is again with changed timestamps, because in the original source of these, the timestamps were from a replay of the match, and they were misleading. So this is about at 5:30, which is an hour after the first messages. Okay, so presumably after Oliver starts attacking with zombies, Michael says, kind of lame, you're attacking with zombies, to be honest. I could have timed you out. And Oliver Tiu says, I need to win in time. I'm sorry. So if you pair this up with the coverage, what happened was that Oliver disrupts the combo, and then immediately after disrupting the combo, the turn after, attacks in with zombies. So that's the log kind of resulting in that. Okay, so that led to Oliver's winning. And at this time, Oliver was behind on time. Oliver had about 2 minutes left, and Michael had about 9 minutes left. Get my 9 fingers in there. So, hence Darkest Mage saying, I could have timed you out. So, great. Then, after the match, after losing the match, get my face out of there, Michael, understandably upset, goes to Twitter and takes these screen captures from a replay of the game where the timestamp will be the time of the replay, not the time of the original message. And that's important to understand here because of what it looks like happened rather than what did happen. So anyway, this is the tweet that has since been deleted, and I wondered if it was appropriate to post it, but I believe that to have the full story, for anyone to judge this, they should really have the full story. And they're out there. They've been leaked, as it were, these private messages. But it's important to have them. So this is something I didn't have access to when I first chatted about this, but it was enlightening for me. So Michael, in the body of the tweet, says, a story in 2 images for my modern match. He's a liar. There was no penalty issued by head judge. The game ended with him at 2 minutes to my 9:30 after I conceded game 2 when he had it locked up. Okay. And these are the two pieces of chat that are available to us from games 1 and games 3, respectively. Okay, great. So, at some point this had a lot of engagement, hundreds of likes, dozens of retweets, and there you go. Just a note again that these timestamps are incorrect. Then the match result is overturned. Oliver discussed with the judges and got Michael the win for the round and apologizes for his part in it. And the final thing that's happening is the twitlonger statement. That's sort of where we are now. Michael posts kind of a longer explanation of the situation, of what happened, and I'll just go through that. So in the twitlonger, it begins with a statement regarding my part in the 2019 Mox Round 6 issue. I've made a mistake. In Game 1 of Round 6 of the 2019 Mox, I made an offer in the game chat not to go through an infinite combo with Spike Feeder, Heliod, Conclave Mentor in exchange for the enemy not attacking with their Field of the Dead tokens, implying that I would concede if it wasn't good enough to win. Oliver agreed, and I won naturally with damage, Ballista Heliod in Game 1, and in Game 2 I conceded early in a mostly untenable position. In Game 3, with little time on the clock, 2 minutes for Oliver to almost 10 for me, I assembled a combo, gaining an arbitrary amount of life. The creatures were removed, and faced with getting timed out, Oliver attacked me to death with 2/2 zombies, and I lost the match. My offer was made in good faith, and believe was even for both of us. It was in Game 1, and there was no indication that time would be a factor in the match with 40-minute clocks, normally 25. Even if the deal was bad for Oliver, it was wrong for him to go back on it in Game 3 after my engine had already been removed, after he had been the beneficiary of an early concession Game 2. Oliver could have at least asked me to go through the motions Game 3 before removing the combo, or just played faster in general for it not to be an issue if that was his intention. The reality is the whole situation could have been avoided if I had made some clicks, granted lifelink to a massive creature, and attacked. The chess clock exists exactly for these types of positions. Not doing so was an act of self-sabotage that was entirely avoidable. It isn't my responsibility to produce a good product. The commentators are gifted orators and would have found a way to make it entertaining. It was foolish for me to believe they needed my assistance in doing so. My job is to show up to the round, pairings, play the game to the best of my ability, and be satisfied no matter what the results are, knowing I did all I could. I was looking for a place to vent after I fell on my own sword and stupidly went to social media in an attempt to unwind before my last round of the day. Instead, I've shown that my mental is weak, harmed my magic and streaming contemporary personality, harmed their reputation, their livelihood, and more. In the morning, I will speak with the judges to make sure that the current outcome of Oliver retroactively conceding round 6 is the proper result of that round. Whatever the decision, it should be put down immediately so that the show can go on, without marring the rest of the event. The commentators are amazing and the games are great to watch. I apologize to the other competitors for the delay in the event and putting a stain on their experience with my part in all of this. I apologize for the staff for being put in a bad spot and having to deal with the problem. I hope that other people learn from the errors made and not use social media as their outlet. I made a mistake in initiating the offer and fallout that occurred because of it. I do not mean to absolve anyone else's part in this. I'll delete my previous post of the chat log of the game. It was improper to post in the first place. I've learned the power of negative energy, and despite being the darkest mage, I want no part of it. This isn't who I am. Thanks for reading, Michael Jacob. Okay. So that's all the evidence in the timeline. And now I'd like to go through it. Okay, so what are we going to look at here a little bit more closely? The agreement between the players. That's kind of the focus, kind of the main thing at issue here. Here I am again. Then let's take a bit of a look at the commentary on Twitch. Feel free to go through and watch the whole match yourself. Maybe you were there originally. What I'm not focusing on are Twitch chat. I mean, there's a limit to what ancillary evidence or stuff is useful to an analysis about what actually happened and what's important. So things I'm not focusing on as much are like all the Twitter discussion around it, one, it's hard to get all of it. And two, it's not really central to the wrongness or rightness of people's actions in this. But to understand some of it, I will talk about the commentary on Twitch, because what people believe is in large part determined by what they consume. So we'll see what was said and why it was said and so forth. Oliver's behavior in game. So we'll see what happened, because there's the agreement and then what happened. So whether you broke the agreement or not depends partly on what you did. Michael's post-game tweet, including chat logs. So I'm going to take a look at what was said there, and we'll see how that relates to what happened and so forth. And then finally going in depth through the statement I just read, the whole twitlonger. Oops. Okay. So the agreement. This is the first set of messages, the first contact between the players. And I've fixed the timestamps here. So I've doctored these images just to change the timestamp here. Does the scope extend beyond game one? That's the question about this agreement. If it doesn't extend past game one, then you can't break the agreement in game three. So let's take a look. Are you attacking with zombies or no? So yes or no. I'll sit here for 5 minutes if I have to. So, I mean, this agreement isn't so much of a formally written, signed thing. It's just sort of it's casual in a way that is typical on a gaming program, I suppose. Not even punctuated. No, I won't. I can still win through mill. So, one, it seems like are you attacking with zombies isn't like, are you ever going to attack me with a zombie again? It's like, are you attacking me this turn or this game? I'll sit here for 5 minutes if I have to. Now that implies to me that, I want to know, or like I'm offering, I guess, that you don't attack with your zombies, and then we don't have to sit here as I go through this for 5 minutes. And Oliver says, that's reasonable. We both have 40 minutes on the clock. I won't attack you with zombies. And this game, I can still win through mill, so it's not like I don't need to fight you on time. So let's play this game out with the understanding that I won't attack you with my zombies. So how does the game play out? Well, let's see how we saw it play out from the commentary. So there are two people in the commentary. It was Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan. So this is some voice that I wrote down here. So at some point, this is in game 3. The gentleman's agreement is still in place. As you can see, zombies and Omnath are not attacking, just Uro is. So there's that. The zombies are attacking. I lied. Sullivan asks, is the agreement off? Again, it's not binding. And then after that, we know where we are now. Woo boy. Twitch chat is going wild. So one thing to understand is that in game 1, the agreement was made, but neither Twitch chat nor the commentators saw the agreement. So they made their assumptions about it. There's a gentleman's agreement is the wording of it. And they assumed by the behavior of the players that the agreement extended to game 3. And why is that exactly? So Oliver wasn't attacking with the zombies in game 3. And that was while Michael had his combo up. So without an agreement, does it make sense not to attack him with your zombies? And look at it this way. If you're at 10 life and you can gain any number of life at any time and you're ahead on time, and I attack you for 10 damage, I can either assume you'll make a big mistake, or I can assume, oh, you'll just gain the life back. So I don't need to worry about it. But he did start attacking when he disrupted the combo. So then it was clearly right to attack if you hadn't agreed not to. But why wouldn't you attack when your opponent could gain 1,000,000 life? So you don't lose your zombies. I mean, you're just getting further behind if your opponent is virtually at infinite life, if not actually. So anyway, people are like, oh, he didn't attack, which proves he knew he was wrong. But even in that case, it makes sense for him not to attack with the zombies. That's the way I see it. And maybe not everyone would play that way, but some people certainly would, even without any agreement. I hope that makes sense. But then, yeah, a little more about that. So one, the whole community watching is like, whoa, there was this gentleman's agreement and it's just been broken. And even Oliver himself was probably like, oh, I just disrupted the combo and Michael didn't gain infinite life in response, so he must assume that I'm not going to attack with these zombies. Am I still in the agreement? So he might start to question himself in this situation, if I'm honest. And obviously, Michael thinks the agreement is still up, or really felt that way after the match. So this is what he tweeted: a story and 2 images from my modern match. He's a liar. And let's look at the messages, because it certainly does portray him as a liar. Are you attacking with zombies or no? Nah, I won't. Kind of lame, you are attacking with zombies. Just 4 minutes later. But remember, these timestamps are totally wrong. This one was about 4:15. No, sorry, 4:34. And these are like an hour later. The first games here, the first messages here are from game 1 in a specific situation, and these are from game 3 where time is an issue, and they hadn't renewed the deal or anything. So to me, it's very clear cut that this agreement, whatever agreement was made, was for game 1, and that Oliver didn't break it. He didn't attack in game 1 with his zombies. Okay, so. And then the Darkest Mage is saying, I could have timed you out. So, like, I was set here to win, and I'm only losing because you are now attacking me. Otherwise, I'd win by timing you out, even if you're ahead in position, which Oliver was. Or you can determine that for yourself by looking at it. But Oliver felt he was ahead in position. And he was the control deck and kind of locked down. He just needed more time to win. Okay, so there was no penalty issued by head judge. So the head judges were watching this, and Michael says, there should have been, the implication here is there should have been a penalty issued by the head judge. The game ended with him at 2 minutes to my 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And I even conceded game 2, presumably to allow Oliver to have more time for game 3, or that's the implication here, when he had it locked up. So I'm conceding when my opponent has it locked up, and they're not conceding to me, even though I'm way ahead on time here in game 3. That's how I read this. Although he's a liar only applies if Oliver went back on his word, and it's just clearly not that way to me here, even though Oliver does say, I'm sorry, which doesn't mean, oh, I'm sorry for breaking the agreement. It means, I'm sorry I wasn't able to win more convincingly, sort of. But it could be that Oliver felt like he broke the agreement. But I think I want to talk a bit more about why he might have felt that way, when clearly this is an agreement for game 1. Okay, so finally, we will take an in-depth look at the twitlonger statement, because reading through it, I mean, this is what I first had access to. There are some problematic areas with it. There seems to be a mischaracterization of the agreement as if it extended beyond game one, or that it was fair for both players and equal and all that, made in good faith and so forth. There's an argument about why Oliver was wrong. It really only gives one side of the story, so it's written in a way that isn't charitable to the other side. And there's some deflecting and bargaining and so forth about, like, well, you know, even if I'm wrong about this, what about this? And finally, many apologies are made, but not the important ones, as it were. So let's see if we can parse through it here and see if see what we get from it. So I've made a mistake. Okay. In game 1 of round 6, I made an offer in the game not to go through an infinite combo in exchange for the enemy not attacking with their field of dead tokens. So in game 1, you made this offer. So this for that. I won't go through my combo if you don't attack me with those zombies ever again for the rest of your life. You know, never attack me with zombie tokens, or else you're a liar. But you know, in game 1, you can make a deal for the whole match. But again, if we pull up the wording of that here, are you attacking with zombies or no? And the deal, it's almost a question, not a deal so much. It's like, hey, I have an offer to you. I'll give you this if you give me that. It's not worded that way. Hey, are you attacking with zombies or no? You know, are you literally at this time attacking with 5 zombies, or am I seeing this wrong? So anyway, and then this part reads like a threat. I'll sit here for 5 minutes if I have to. Sort of like priming someone to say, like, look, you don't want this. You don't want me to sit here for 5 minutes. And Oliver's like, yeah, that sounds fair to me. Whatever, I won't attack with zombies. This game, I can still win through mill. He doesn't explicitly say this game, but I guess that's where this gets awkward. That's how I read it, and you know, that's my analysis of it. So hopefully I'm being fair there, but hey, read it whatever way you read it. Okay, so Oliver agreed. So it's not worded that way, but Oliver did say he wouldn't attack, and then didn't attack, and then that part isn't mentioned, but like, he didn't attack that game, you know, he didn't attack, and then game 2 progressed without issue, and then in game 3, Oliver's down on time. Well, no kidding, you didn't spend 5 minutes going through your combo, so of course you're ahead in time from where you would have been if you went through your combo. The creatures as part of the combo were removed in game 3, and then Oliver attacked you to death with 2/2 zombies, and you lost the match. Okay. So here it is. My offer was made in good faith, and I believe was even for both of us. Yeah, so the issue here is, what was even about it? What does Oliver get from this deal? It's clear what Michael gets. He gets to survive. You know, he doesn't get attacked with a bunch of zombies. He doesn't have to go through his combo for 5 minutes and potentially misclick. I don't know, but ultimately what he gets is time on his clock. 5 minutes of time, if the wording of the agreement is to be trusted. But what does Oliver get? It doesn't seem like he gets anything. He doesn't have to wait for 5 minutes. Okay. It was in game 1, true, and there was no indication that time would be a factor. So at this point, he's like, well, you know, if you agree to it, and time becomes a factor, we didn't know that to start. So I wasn't trying to get ahead on time, is the implication here. Even if the deal was bad for Oliver, So the implication is it wasn't bad for him, but even if it was wrong for him to go back on it in game 3. So, one, that's only true if it applied to game 3, which it doesn't look like. And then here's where the unsound logic comes in. So it was wrong for him to go back on it in game 3 as a conclusion. And then we have some assumed premises here after my engine had been removed. So if the engine had been removed and you go back on the deal, then it is wrong. Further, after he'd been the beneficiary of an early concession game 2. So the deal might be off if I wasn't nice to you in game 2, but I was nice to you in game 2, so the deal's on. Like, that is unsound logic, because the premise of the conclusion being based on a concession in game 2 is just totally false. And, it's just what was on Michael's mind when he wrote this, but yeah, it definitely looks weird to include this in any way after that stuff. So maybe Michael feels that it would have been okay to attack me if my combo was still in place, because fair enough, we're playing on time. But thank goodness you've removed my combo, because now you definitely can't attack me because I'm at infinite life, or that's probably how he felt. But it's like the opposite of that. It makes sense for Oliver not to attack when you have the engine. But after the engine is removed, you should have spent as much time as you felt necessary to get to a life where I couldn't kill you. Because it looks like, let's say, MJ spent 5 minutes in that game gaining life, and he goes to 300 life or something. It won't be 1,000,000. Like, it's not infinite. Then Oliver could still win on damage there, and potentially on time, because their time will be a lot closer if you do go through your combo. So the fact that MJ cites his being ahead in time as him being on track to win is only because he never had to go through his combo to any significant degree. And the fact that that's being left out of this conversation is just so misleading and bad faith. Okay, so here's where the bargaining comes in, and it looks weird. Oliver could have at least asked me to go through the motions game 3 before removing the combo. Why would he have to do that, first of all? All of this hinges on me believing that the agreement was for game 1. But what you're asking is Oliver to clarify that, like, oh, hey, that was an agreement for game 1. Oliver doesn't have to clarify that, I don't believe. So Oliver removes the combo, and that's when you should ask, oh, do I have to do this? What else could have Oliver done to have avoided all this? Michael will tell you. He could have played faster in general. If you don't want to lose on time, just play faster. Just get good. For it not to be an issue. So the implication is that Oliver played kind of slow. And as it might sound, I think this is unfair to Oliver, because it isn't taking any responsibility for what you could have done to make the agreement more clear. One, offering such a thing is kind of weird in the first place, but then squeezing it and making it extend to the entire match without clarifying it is wrong. But okay. The reality, and okay, here's where some of the bargaining comes in. The reality is the whole situation could have been avoided if I made some clicks, granted lifelink to a massive creature, and attacked. It's like, yes, well, he admits his fault in it. Kind of. The chess clock exists for these type of positions. True again. Not doing so is an act of self-sabotage that was entirely avoidable. I take issue with this just because he didn't suffer, he didn't suffer any misfortune from these acts of self-sabotage. he ended up winning the match. He ended up winning the entire tournament with a first place prize of $50,000. So this was round 6 out of, I believe, the 14 Swiss rounds for the 24 players. So he made it to top 4. So did Oliver Tiu, by the way, and ended up winning the whole thing. So it isn't my responsibility to produce a good product. That's saying like, oh, I should have just done all this stuff, even though what I was really trying to do is save the viewer's experience. The commentators are gifted orators and would have found a way to make it entertaining. It was foolish of me to believe they needed my assistance in doing so. So he's saying they needed my assistance in doing so. That was his belief at the time. So I'm just doing this to save the viewers' time. Which is a pressure, and it's a fair perspective, but it ended up being not very fair to Oliver. My job is to show up to the round pairings, play the game to the best of my ability, and be satisfied no matter what the results are, knowing I did all I could. So, I mean, that's all fair. It's like, this is sort of saying I shouldn't have really made this offer, I just should have played the game. And that's all reasonable, because that's certainly some critiques of his behavior in this situation. I was looking for a place to vent after I fell on my own sword and stupidly went to social media in an attempt to unwind before my last round of the day. So after this match makes sense. I should have won that. He attacked me with zombies. Like, I felt it. I was just about to win with time, and if he just didn't attack me with zombies, I would have won on time. So yeah, I would feel the same way. I'd be like, dang it. So you go to social media. What he did, he went to the replay and took the screen captures of the agreement, are you attacking with zombies or no, posted them, and tweeted what we went through before. So he admits that mental was weak, and then that made him sort of look bad. It also had the effect of the people following Michael. Some of them went to attack Oliver over it. So Oliver, you scum, you broke your gentleman's agreement, you liar, and so forth. And again, the tweet itself, with the original timestamps, made it look, so if you didn't watch the match and you just saw these tweets, 5:42, 5:42, I won't attack with zombies at 5:42, and then at 5:46, kinda lame that you're attacking for zombies. But both of these timestamps are after the match concluded, and these two chats were about an hour apart. So I've at least corrected those timestamps. Okay. So after all of the responsibility Michael has taken, in the morning, he's going to make sure that Oliver retroactively conceded the match, because, so I question the extent to which Michael Jacob is taking responsibility for this. Okay, so here are the apologies. Apologize to the competitors, apologize to the staff. People can learn from my mistakes. I made a mistake in initiating the offer and the fallout that occurred because of it. And here's where it becomes a false apology. I do not mean to absolve anyone else's part in this. So it's like, I'm sorry for what I did. You were still wrong to do what you did, and I should still win the match. Which is a fair statement. It's a fair belief to have, but it isn't taking responsibility for it. So I'll delete my previous post because it was improper to post it in the first place. And incriminating, because it looks like you've doctored the images and are, well, not doctored them, but the timestamps are misleading into believing someone who didn't watch the match that Oliver definitely went back on this agreement that was made 4 minutes ago, when in fact that agreement was for game 1, and this is now an hour later in game 3. Anyway. Learn the power of negative energy, want no part in it, so I'm not a bad dude. And you're not. Like, I understand, I think, where both players are coming from and how this type of thing would feel. So hopefully you can too. So that handles the twitlonger, and in the Q&A session we can go back and talk about anything we still need to. So partly the reason I'm going over this now is because it seems that there's a mostly negative attitude towards Oliver in the community. And that's even among big figures, LSV, other pros. There are some voices out there that say, you know, both parties were partly wrong. I can understand why people did it. I've done worse things, and so forth. But I'll go much further here and state that Oliver did not break the agreement. And look at the agreement yourself and make your own decision. But he had no responsibility, and so he didn't break the agreement. He won the match, and therefore he had no responsibility to ask for the result to be overturned. But he also had no ground to do it. So he shouldn't have asked for the match to be overturned. Even if both parties agree, I think it was wrong for him to do it. And the judges shouldn't have let it happen. Fair enough if at the end of it, in the moment, Oliver concedes the match. You can do that. I'm about to win. I concede it, whatever. But retroactively doing it sets a precedent that is kind of weird. So what were the details? What were the different details about this match that allowed the judges to overturn it? Was it the high profile of the two players? Was it the high profile of the event? Was it the kickback from the community? I mean, I can't just go and say, hey, I'd rather my opponent have won that game. Don't worry, there was no coercion or anything like that. But Oliver's request was made after some outside pressures, like the tweet from Michael and other pros, and not based on the game of Magic, and that's sort of my problem with it. So what's wrong with this type of thing happening if both parties agree that it should happen? Well, partly it's unfair to other competitors and sets a bad precedent, so that if you harass someone, maybe you can get them to overturn a result in an online tournament. And this type of thing might get by in paper Magic more often. Oh shoot, we made a mistake on our match slip. Actually, you won. Can we fix it? Or in the penultimate round of a tournament before the cut to top 8, you can draw with your opponent. You know, you can decide to do that as long as there's no offer or coercion going on there, and the judges have to be vigilant to look out for that. But in a tournament like this, are the players allowed to, like, oh shoot, I'm going to make top 8. Actually, I would make top 8 if I lost. So I'm going to actually go back and say my opponent won, so they can get into the top 8 or top 4. So I don't know. Just imagine if this situation was the very last round and someone who was locked in for top 4 doesn't make it because now MJ gets in it. I think these are the risks of this type of thing. It's kind of a weird argument, but whatever. Okay, so that's me going over the facts, which I think were important to present here, even though the original tweet was deleted. The reasoning there, the stated reason was, I didn't want to direct any harassment at Oliver, but I think it also served to deleting it protected Michael's sort of case that he was in the right, because the tweet kind of shows that what he presented was inaccurate or misleading. So it's on you to be the judge. So the facts are there for your consideration. But then I added my analysis to it, and I added myself to it. So you can judge me. Maybe you love MJ or hate Oliver before this. Again, I don't know very much about either character, but I did see this on Twitter because I follow some adjacent characters, and I looked into it, and it looked funny to me at first. And then the reason I made this whole nonsense presentation is because I kept looking into it further and found all the stuff. So, one, you can say, oh, did I leave anything out? Is my presentation of the facts at the beginning of the presentation fair? But also, you can use your best dialectic faculties to judge my analysis of it. So you're like, oh, that's totally unfair. I don't read it that way. Of course, that extended to the whole match. And by the way, Oliver wasn't attacking with zombies, so he knew he was wrong anyway, and he said sorry at the end. So yeah, this is my new pet word here, dialectic. It's sort of like critical thinking. Use your critical thinking skills to test my conclusions. And dialectic is sort of figuring out the truth of an opinion. So hopefully we base our opinions on, and our determination of our opinions on some facts and some dialectic faculties. All right. Now, a Q&A section. So I'll look at chat again. I haven't been looking at chat, so I have been ignoring you, but I will cease. But I will ask, because this might be cut up into a video, partly because I don't want my community to be a force for bad, and I don't want to become a drama streamer. I still stream Magic Drafts, unless the money's good enough. No, I'm kidding. Oh, go back. So no personal attacks. And you say, well, all this is a personal attack. Here's the workaround. Comment on actions, arguments, but don't comment on the people. Oh, Oliver's a scumbag, or Michael's a liar, or whatever, you know. But yeah, we can talk about what happened, because it's important, at least so far as this is partly in the public sphere, that I think shedding light on it so it's not misconstrued is important. No links, no solicitation, and just so you don't come back and do it again, I'll just time you out until whenever. So them's the rules. Okay. Yeah, mostly my audience is good, but maybe I picked up a few people by the clickbait title of the stream right now. So here we go. Oh dear. Okay. So I'm going to take a minute to read through some things, and we can go back in the presentation or check out the twitlonger. Right. Want the life from lifesteal. Okay, so to begin with, the combo was, oh god, what was it? It was like Heliod, some little critter, and a spike feeder. And with those three pieces, you could gain infinite life. And then with the spike feeder and Heliod and walking ballista, you could do infinite damage. So Oliver never let the infinite damage thing go, because then, of course, you'd go through it or concede to it immediately. But the infinite life is a tougher one, because even in live magic, you can't gain infinite life. You have to choose to how many times to run the loop, so you can do it billions of times. But then with Heliod, you can also get like tons of 1/1 counters on a creature and make it huge and give that lifelink. So that's what the combo is. Duration of the agreement, it's implied that once it's assembled, it doesn't attack. You think it applies to whenever Michael assembles it. So Set Twitch says that given the agreement, it looks like if Oliver agrees to this, that it applies for the whole match. And that's one way of reading it, for sure. It's not the way I read it. But, you know, when does it end? The end of the match? The end of the year? Every single time these two people play each other? And you might say, okay, well, just the match. But to me, it seems like we're in a specific situation here. And the specific situation, as Michael admitted, included that you both have 40 minutes left. So maybe Oliver wouldn't agree to this if they both had 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left. So it was made in good faith, and the scope of it is for game one, and that's the only way I can read it. Oliver shouldn't have accepted it. Well, that much is true. Obviously, Oliver said, like, well, if I went back, I would have done it differently. And I think he probably meant I would have never agreed to that in the first place. I think it was wrong of Darkest Mage to ask for this thing without at least being charitable about time later. And he uses time against Oliver later, saying, well, Oliver is way behind in time. No kidding. You didn't have to go through your combo. The way it's worded, it's like he's asking not to attack that game, not for the whole match. I agree. You could word it for the whole match, but it's a weird thing to ask for a whole match. It's like, whoa, why would I agree to that? You wouldn't, right? So if Darkest Mage worded it in the correct way, it would have been harder to agree to. So I think the way Michael worded it here was to try to get Oliver to agree. Are you attacking or no? You know, would you really attack me here? Come on. Because I'll sit here for 5 minutes if I have to. And Oliver says, well, that seems fair enough. This game, I can still win through mill. He doesn't mean in general he can win through mill, or maybe you read it that way. In-game agreements could be validated by judges. Asking the same thing in games 2 and 3 would have been redundant. Yeah, so that's one way of looking at it. I think it's a new situation, and the scope of it seems like a ridiculous thing to agree to this for an entire match. I will never attack with a zombie again. Because if you look at this, there's a lot implied by it. It is, don't attack for zombies after I get my combo assembled. That's not even what's said. Or maybe if you're like, well, it not only does it apply to the whole match, but it applies to zombies, and that's it. You never attack me with zombies again. And all I have to do is not go through my combo now. Because obviously Darkest Mage goes through his combo as much as he needs to. It's totally one-sided. Yeah, there's implied things here, but it's ridiculous to think that all of these implied things are like solid. Yeah. Your presentation is missing the part that it should not be in the player's responsibility to ever handle this. It should be handled by a judge or the program and not be in your hands. Well, one way of looking at that is that it was handled by the program, and Oliver won. Oliver won the match through the rules of the program. There were judges for this event. There are seldom judges for events like this. Not even high-profile events like PTQs online. I mean, you get a deck, a digital events coordinator. I speak from personal experience. I've been to the top 8 of PTQ, limited PTQs online, 3 or 4 of them. But they can't do much, right? They definitely can't change a result. Maybe they can have you save your decks and do some stuff, but it's limited what they can do. In paper, sure, you have a team of judges come over, they argue about it, and they change the life total to what it has to be, and it's all easy. But this is a different game, and I think any weird cases should be anticipated, and this one definitely fits the bill. But hey, the expert team of judges did come to the conclusion that it was right to reverse the thing. I just don't agree with it. Why am I good at this? What's my profession? 300 reference. But yeah, I'm just a random internet guy. But thank you for thinking I'm good at this. I'll take your implication as I want to take it. Your presentation is missing the part that it should not be in the players. Oh yeah. All the more reason to be crystal clear what the agreements should be. Yeah, I've had to deal with contracts for a lot of money. Trust me, yeah, there's pages, and there was money at stake here too. If you're basing a $50,000 tournament career on this is just like, and like MJ went back and posted this. This is his evidence that that Oliver was a liar, and he got the timestamps misleading so that it looks like Oliver attacks for 4 minutes after the agreement was made, and it was an hour after. So the agreement wasn't made well, and in response to his combo being removed in Game 3, Darkest Mage could have then said, "Oh, or do we still have the same agreement up?" But no, nothing. So it's just taking advantage of a false or invalid assumption, and then putting that all on Oliver, which was completely unfair here, and effective, completely effective, because Michael won $50,000. Happy this is addressed somewhere. Oh, thank you. Again, I'm adding a lot of myself to the analysis and the conclusions here, but hopefully now that you have access to the facts and we can go look at whatever one of those, you can decide for yourself. The only one that should apologize here is Wizards. Imperfect program. Yeah, and that is an issue, but it's a different issue. The program should be improved, of course. All of these things are true. Everyone can agree on that. But to write off everyone else's actions as neutral because at the end of the day, Wizards should just make a better program. We have to deal with what happened as well. Yes, we need to solve the underlying issue, but right now there's a murder, and we need to, well, I don't want to give it so much credit, but the stakes in these types of decisions are not low. I mean, this is not a Friday Night Magic whatever. This is a $250,000 tournament. So prize pool $250,000, first place $50,000. So the prize pool includes everyone's places. I do understand my points. Just want to be clear that mine is being communicated to. This is a constructed game, and one player has a combo deck. True. Software engineers like to be precise about things. They like clear and concise APIs. He's asking for a shortcut for one of their combos, the same as conceding to the Splinter Twin Pestermite. That is a way of looking at it too. Again, that's really charitable for these lines of text. So you might have asked it in a way that was like, hey, this match, can we shortcut my combo so that insofar as possible, you assume I have infinite life and that you don't make attacks that would damage me when they wouldn't have gotten me. Like, it's weird because you still have to attack with Uro because Uro has an attack trigger. So was Oliver, what if Oliver had an attack trigger for all of his creatures? Then he can't agree to this. And he would have been fine if he didn't. The weird part about this whole thing is that the agreement doesn't benefit Oliver at all. He's being nice to accept it. It sounds like he's accepting it for game one. And MJ says it's even for both of us, or he thought it was, or whatever. It's just there's no charitability there's no empathy coming from Michael here to understand what he might have done wrong, what he really might have done wrong here, which is to assume this thing, he thinks his agreement was rock solid, or he keeps saying his agreement was rock solid for the whole thing, but it's just not. I mean, look at it. Are you attacking with zombies or no? I'll sit here for 5 minutes if I have to. That's it. Okay, I won't attack with zombies, and I don't, and then we move on to the next game. It's not saying, it just never gets close to saying, will you observe my infinite life for the whole match? It doesn't even get close to that, which is what Oliver not only wouldn't have agreed to, but yeah, it's a limitation that we can't tie off the thing. But as I talked about in my last video, it's MTGO. It's not paper magic. It's not Arena, where infinite combos are even less of a thing. So they're playing the Magic Online Championship, and you're limited by what you can do in time. Fair enough if the players agree to play as if something happened, but they didn't. Just for game one, and all it was is I won't attack with my zombies. It wasn't I will observe some infinite thing. Was Michael entitled to it? Did Oliver breach an agreement? Well, if you watch game one, he doesn't attack with his zombies. So the only way to think he didn't breach his or that he did breach his agreement is that the agreement extends to game three, and even what the agreement is a big assumption, because this is the agreement. This is it. This is what the players said, and a lot of the final arguments here are going to be like, oh well, Oliver acted guilty, so that's good enough for me. He's guilty, and he did, and I think it was due to a lot of pressure that he might not have been used to, and the feeling of wrongdoing. But I'll tell you, not everyone who thinks they are wrong or feels wrong is wrong, and it's really sad. And there's a lot of awful situations that are similar, where like someone feels like they're, I don't want to compare this to like domestic abuse and stuff, but there are times when you might feel wrong when you're not. And I believe, given all the evidence, and this is all the evidence I could find, and what the players communicated to each other, that's my conclusion, is that Oliver felt wrong, but he wasn't. And this is kind of a sad day for justice. But what do I want to happen? I just wanted to get this out here as sort of a platform to, Michael deleted these logs, which were kind of self-incriminating. One, because he's the type of person who would post them, which he already apologized for. And two, because he posted them in a way that misled any reader, and it just doesn't look like an agreement. So, the community reacted too quickly and too harshly. Oliver was trashed. People love to pile on. And there's two reasons for that. One, the people watching the commentary all assumed there was a gentleman's agreement. And you know what? Oliver broke it. Cedric said he broke it. He said, well, this is something. This is the end of, gentlemen's agreements, which is kind of a weird term for a game that's trying to be gender inclusive. But like a gentleman's agreement? What about like a ladies' agreement? What about the ladies? Come on. It's just a weird term if you think about it. The manly men get to agree and have a solid gentleman's agreement, but it's a term everyone uses, I guess. But have you ever heard it used between female players or whatever? Yeah, right. Shout out to the ladies. Anyway, so the whole chat is there like, whoa, he's breaking it, he's doing it, he's attacking. And of course the agreement was on, because he wasn't attacking while the combo was there. He's just attacking now because his life was low. But again, that's explainable, because why bother attacking into the combo and losing all your zombies? Because they just gain life. But after you remove it, you can attack in and trade zombies for life, because that's how it would happen if there was never a combo. So all of that's explainable, but yeah, anyway, it all added up. Then the second reason people attacked Oliver is because they saw MJ's first tweet, and the people that see the tweet first before it's deleted are obviously a lot of his fans, predisposed to agree with him, but also misled by the timestamps. 4 minutes later, he's attacking with zombies. No, it's an hour later. Unwritten agreement. Well, anyway, I'm not a lawyer. This is not taking it to court, but you know, if it were to go to court, hopefully all the evidence stated here could be used in its form. I tried not to present it with any bias. I think you say unwritten agreement now. Okay, so well, what would happen if this went to court, if there was money involved? There was money involved. Yeah, it is a written agreement, you know, because they weren't talking to each other. But if it went to court, I don't know. I think obviously, well, what about it would go to court? Nothing could go to court. The judges get to decide what happens. Maybe Oliver could sue over something weird, but no, it's decided. You know, I just think part of the result of this is that people's agreements during game should be done more carefully, or like more carefully vetted, or a rule should be made about whether such agreements can be made and should be observed. Or if someone, like I would warn you not to make it any agreement, because it can only hurt you. But you know, obviously Michael offered an agreement that could only help him, and Oliver was dumb enough to take it, I guess. I mean, that's how it turned out. Yeah, people won't make any agreements. Yeah, in my last video I said even if it's beloved MJ, don't make an agreement with them. Or you could say, like, yeah, for now let's play that way, or something, like, I don't know. But blaming Oliver in this situation for not specifying exactly to what extent he was going to do the agreement is weird, when MJ didn't specify that when he offered the agreement. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up there. When this becomes a video, feel free to give your feedback in the comments, because that is another good space for it. But I'll stay on here a bit to chat. So thank you. Good night, and stay vigilant. It's a tie, yeah.